Your attention, on behalf of your hosts, I welcome you to the opening ceremony of New Oriental Vision Overseas Consulting UK Limited. Now, let me first welcome our principal guests. First, from the Embassy of the People's Republic of China, Mr. Shen Yang, Minister Counselor for Education. And now, representing the British Council, Mr. Dewey Knight, Director, Education Relations, China. Mr. Knight. With a colleague, Jasriel Go. Is she here? Imminent, okay. From UK Trade and Investment, Mr. Jeff Gladding, Regional Director of UK TI Education. Mr. Gladding? There, behind. Thank you. And from London and Partners, Mr. Kevin McCarthy, Head of Education and Culture. And now to introduce our hosts from New Oriental. Mr. Zhou Chong'an, Director and Executive President of New Oriental Education and Technology Group, who is also the CEO of Beijing New Oriental Vision Overseas Consulting Company Limited. So, Zhou, Mr. Zhou, thank you. And Mr. Swen Tao, Executive Vice President. Swen Tao, sorry, there he is. And Ms. Fei Yan, the UK Director of Branch Office Management Centre. Fei Yan, right here. And finally, maybe we're saving the best to last, Mr. Wilson Wang, General Manager of the London operation. I knew it. Good. So we also welcome, of course, our partner universities, education groups, secondary schools, and other senior officers from New Oriental in China. Our agenda for this afternoon is as follows. We will hear from a senior officer of New Oriental, then a minister from the Chinese embassy, a representative of the British Council, and from an academic partner. Finally, we'll be invited to share in a toast to the success of New Oriental, after which you're invited to remain to enjoy hospitality, to mingle and network. So it gives me pleasure now to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Swen Tao, Executive Vice President of Beijing New Oriental Vision Overseas Consulting Company Limited, who will now welcome you all.
Thank you, Richard. Minister, Councillor, honorable guests, my fellow colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First of all, thank you for joining us today in our opening ceremony of the UK office. On behalf of Vision Overseas and of Mr. Zhou Chenggang, CEO of the company, I feel greatly honored to introduce you our new office in London. New Oriental Education Technology Group, listed on the New York Stock Exchange, is the largest provider of private educational services in China and the most influential and reputed brand in the industry, recognized by Chinese families. Vision Overseas, as a subsidiary of the group, is dedicated to providing expert educational counseling and recruitment services to students and our partner institutions abroad. Founded in 1996, it now has over 2,300 employees and 40 offices in China, and have built increasingly close cooperation with universities and educational institutions all over the world. With an increasing number of students studying abroad and the growing demand for overseas services, it is only natural for us to expand our network abroad and to have offices in major destination countries of Chinese students. The UK is certainly a great place to study due to its history, culture, and world-class educational resources. Also, Vision has been keeping close ties with lots of partners in the UK. And Mr. Zhou has worked in London for quite a few years, and I studied here. That's why we're quite into the idea of choosing the UK as our first step of overseas expansion. The founding of our UK office is in line with Mr. Zhou's strategic planning for the company. He's committed to integrating resources and offering a true one-stop solution to our students. Think about the needs and wants of a Chinese student who plans to study abroad. Test prep, admission counseling, pre-departure warming up, housing, banking, academic support while studying abroad, and even job hunting, or even starting their own businesses back in China. In fact, we have already set up a startup named Highway Careers to help our students with their career after university. We are determined to add value to our students during the whole process. Now, having an office in London, we will further explore the ways to help our students while they are abroad. We hope our London office is not only a new home of Vision Overseas, but also a home to overseas Chinese students. Finally, on behalf of New Oriental Vision Overseas, I'd like to take this opportunity to extend our sincere gratitude to all the friends who have supported us and helped us over the years. We hope that we can have your continued support, and we will be a trustworthy partner as well. Now, I declare New Oriental Vision Overseas Consulting UK open. It's a great pleasure to have you all here. I wish you a wonderful and lovely afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Mr. Shen Yang, the Minister Councillor for Education from the Embassy of the People's Republic of China.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction. First of all, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to attend the opening ceremony of the New Oriental Vision Overseas Limited here in London. The New Oriental has been a hugely successful business in China. Everybody in the education circle knows about them. And in one way or another, I am very much linked to them because primarily of their aspiration for study abroad. Now I'm delighted that they are establishing themselves here in London. So I would like to add my congratulations on behalf of the Education Office of the Chinese Embassy. We wish you well, wish you huge success. Hotel Russell has been also somehow, perhaps accidentally, very closely related to the world of higher education here in the UK. And that is because of the Russell Group establishment. The Russell Group is a name brand here in the UK, consisting of 24 leading research universities. In my world of work, we often associate it with the 985 universities in China, the top-notch universities, also research universities in China. And the reason they adopted the Russell Group, I understand, is that because their initial conference was actually held here at the Hotel Russell, hence the name brand Russell Group Universities. And I thought perhaps it is again by accident New Oriental launched their London office here in Russell Group, Hotel Russell, and hopefully it could add a little of luck perhaps to, and hopefully it will be equally successful as the Russell Group universities. Student mobility has always been a hugely important feature in the China-UK education collaboration, and even more so nowadays in the context of China-UK high-level people-to-people dialogue. It has always been the highlight in the entire education collaboration sphere, and today the number of Chinese students that continue to rise, to grow. We're talking about, at the moment, 150,000 Chinese students currently studying in the UK, and we are witnessing a high percentage of increase every year, although it's leveling off somehow, but hopefully it will rise again. Still, by and large, the trend is very healthy. The number of Chinese students continue to move here because of the high reputation of UK higher education. And of course, we hope that there will be more and more UK students moving over to study in China as well. And I'm delighted that my British Council colleagues here, he's going to talk about it as well. But my point is that we are delighted to notice that more and more private enterprises are providing services to the student mobility process. And I hope it will become a two-way flow of services as well. So within of course, within the framework of the legal framework of both the UK and China. And we certainly hope that the big business will be even bigger. With the rise of student numbers, we are also encountering more and more challenges, particularly because the new students students, the new generation of students, they are becoming even younger, and they tend to be the only child in their families. And that somehow add a little challenge to the business of looking after their welfare and well-being whilst they're here. The Education Office of the Chinese Embassy this is the primary mission of the Education Office of the Chinese Embassy, to basically to look after the well-being of all Chinese students currently studying here, while we are also providing services to UK students moving to study in China, and we are also working very closely with our partners here in terms of promoting language collaborations and also academic exchanges and academic collaborations. So, best of luck, New Oriental. We hope your business here in London will be a big plus. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Dewey Knight of the British Council, and he's responsible for education relations with China. Mr. Dewey Knight. Here he is. Okay.
Cheers, thank you. I'm delighted to be here on behalf of the British Council to recognise and celebrate Vision Overseas' new chapter, new launch today, especially as the office is just across Trafalgar Square from British Council, so we are neighbours in more sense than one. I've only been in post for around 4 weeks, and in that time I've been particularly struck by the shared mission and the education relations that exist between individuals, agencies, institutions, and governments and embassies between the UK and China, and I know that can only go from strength to strength, as the Minister Councillor just said. At the British Council, we value our strong and long working relationship with Vision Overseas in China, but now, as I said, the new chapter in the UK. And I'd like to put on record once again our appreciation for your recent very generous support for the Education UK Alumni Awards in Beijing, which had both Ambassador Woodward and the Duke of Cambridge speaking at, and they talked of the importance and value of student mobility within the cultural and education exchange between both of our countries. And at that event, at that awards, one of the winners, Tina Liu, who studies in the UK, she very eloquently talked about the whole new world that had opened up to her in a time in the UK and the possibilities that had emerged from that in going back to China. And I know that is echoed in Vision Overseas' mission statement in terms of broadening horizons and each and every student having a chance to fulfil their ambition and talent. As the Minister Councillor said, the increase over time in the number of Chinese students in the UK adds a lot to UK academic and cultural life, and it's a real success story. But I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of the British Council to say actually we are equally keen to encourage British students to follow the lead of their Chinese peers and perhaps experience study and work opportunities abroad, obviously particularly in China, and I hope that representatives from the education sector here today would look for opportunities to work with, perhaps with Vision Overseas, but certainly with the British Council, the Chinese Embassy and other agencies to encourage our citizens to enjoy those life-changing opportunities of spending some time in China. And just to conclude, as the Minister Councillor mentioned, this is an opportune time for Vision Overseas to be embarking on this new chapter. We're just a couple of weeks away from the high-level people-to-people dialogue between our two governments, which education is by far the most important element of that, and the relationship between institutions, governments and individuals, and also, of course, the very important state visit that will happen a couple of months after. And I know that across the people-to-people dialogue and the state visit that student mobility and those exchanges between the UK and China, between research, between academic exchanges and indeed student placements would be right at the heart of the developing relationship. So just to conclude, thanks for inviting the British Council to participate today, and all the best in the new chapter, and we look forward to working with you and all else here. Thank you.
Our final speaker is a professional, academic and commercial partner, Mr. Andrew Collin, founder and owner of Into University Partnerships. Mr. Collins.
Ladies and gentlemen, rarely have I been described as professional or academic, but there we go. It's an honour. Thank you, sir. Minister, Councillor, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's genuinely a privilege to be invited here to speak on behalf of educational partners of New Oriental to commemorate and recognise the opening of the London office, and we wish you every success. And the three things that I'd like to perhaps talk about in relation to New Oriental. The first is, green is the colour. Aren't we green with envy with the success of this organisation? In 20 years, stock market listing in America, is it, let me get the figures right, but I think it's 12 million students have been through programmes operated by New Oriental. 2.9 million students this year enrolled on test prep and formal programmes. Not one school in China, but why not 721? And literally placing thousands of ambitious Chinese students into leading universities around the world, and representing over 1,000 institutions globally and 75 institutions here in the UK, of which I'm representing into university partnerships, but I know other esteemed partners of New Oriental are present here today to mark this occasion. So this is a fabulous success story, and I have no doubt that, Mr. Joe, the opening of this office here will be just another step on the road to glory and success for New Oriental, and we're deep in admiration for the success and commitment and tenacity with which you've conquered the market in China. But it's not just a corporate story. Actually, I think all partners recognise it's the individual relationships that we have with the counselling staffs, the correspondents, within all of the organisations that we work with New Oriental. And I think I'd just like to remark on the absolute professionalism and commitment that we encounter as being a real special feature of engaging with New Oriental in this business. I mean, they're a really important partner. They help us actually understand the Chinese market. They help us actually understand how to improve processes, how to get competitive, be more competitive, and above all else, how to transform student experience and deliver really better outcomes for students. And it's only by listening to people who are very close to the market, who understand this sort of dynamic, that we're able to grow our own business. But the corporate story is great, but the individual story about all the staff within New Oriental is fantastic too. And I think you were recognised as being one of the top 20 employers in China just very recently. So a round of applause for that. So it's under Mr. Zhou's leadership that New Oriental Vision Overseas has really taken off, and they're a very, very significant partner for us. We had a great weekend. Thank you very much, Mr. Zhou, for this year. Difficult conditions in the market at the moment, highly competitive, but actually when you're working closely in a really supportive relationship, you can still achieve great things, and we've had another successful year. But I know it's not just us, and with the universities and other educational organisations, you enjoy very important and successful strategic relationships, and we're full of admiration for the success that you've had and the staff that you employ. But I think the thing that I'd like to say today is a special day because it's the opening of New Oriental's office. But I think it's also another special day because I think it's a day in which immigration policy in the UK turns around. Okay? We've all this week looked at horrific photographs of people in stress and strife, suffering intolerably. And we've had this stupid obsession with the idea of headcount limits in terms of immigration in the UK. So I think actually we're going to remember the opening of this office as being the point in time when actually hopefully the British government will get alive to the fact that it's not about numbers, it's about principles and issues and social justice and how to make the world a better place. And so what I'd like to commend New Oriental on is your mission in actually helping transform lives, build a better world through better understanding and creating opportunities for more and more people to study abroad, which actually promotes peace prosperity and avoids conflict around the world. And I think we all share that mission, and we're here today celebrating it with New Oriental. Very special day. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. A professional partner in academia may be a better way to describe. Now, I'm hoping that the banqueting staff have a tray of drinks that they're going to bring forward here to the stage, please. And it's right here. Could you make way for the gentleman and the tray? The reason being that we're going to end our formalities with a toast, and to propose it and invite colleagues and partners to the stage, could we welcome back, please, Mr. Suen Tao, the Executive Vice President. The stage is yours, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, please raise your glasses. A toast to New Oriental and to everybody's good health. Cheers. Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, while the photographers are getting their pictures, just to say that after the formal picture's been taken, we offer hospitality, some food and more to drink. Please linger a while and mix with each other. And whilst the hotel, Russell, sparked off maybe the Russell Group, perhaps we can look upon this day as the New Oriental Vision Hotel, which is a twist on the original idea. Because this makes a wonderful dining room, and all the residents with all the rooms upstairs for students, this is your new campus. We welcome you, and thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I know it's difficult to clap with a glass in your hand, but have a go, please. Big round of applause for our presidents.